Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where we talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Black Lightning. A lot of interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. I think it's really interesting. Obviously, it's almost an interesting combination of obviously Jeff, and him and Lynn kind of returned home last episode, and there wasn't much fanfare for it, and even Jeff was kind of like, oh, okay, sure, whatever. But now it's like he's back in Freeland, and now he gets to see firsthand what the occupation looks like. And it's so interesting because the family is so divided in many different regards. Lynn is barely home because she continues to work with the ASA because she's trying to find a cure for this, virus that's spreading amongst metahumans. And obviously Jeff and Lynn disagree about this whole ASA situation. She's like, I see them for what they are, but the fact of the matter is I'm doing good. And it's interesting because even her and Jennifer, I think, kind of on some level kind of agree on like their perspectives on it, because Jennifer's kind of being sweet talked by Odell in the sense of like, oh, like we're doing Freeland a service, because the fact of the matter is us being here, we're preventing the Markovians from doing some terrible stuff. He even shows her a link to something, which is like, that's super morbid for you to show that to a teenager, but I guess you can make the argument, it's like, well, this is the same stuff you would see in the news, and you need to be educated about, well, for one, know your enemy, and it's like, this is what the Markovians are capable of. So for her, she's willing to be like, the ASA is doing like whatever they got to do, they're doing to protect us. You can make the argument maybe that's just her being young and naive, or because there's give and take with it, which is like, yes, the Markovians probably do a lot of damage, but that's something that like the new student brought up. I thought was kind of interesting, of like, how can you really say anything that's been told, because that's only you, for one, you're only getting one side of things. As he said, like, history's written by the winners, so you're never getting the other side of the thing, because it's like, oh, like, how can you blame an entire country for what some people do? And like, it's an example of like, you can't blame every German person for Nazis being a thing. It was a group of people that believed in that, and so it's like, you can't punish all of Germany for that. So I think it's the same thing in this case of like, yeah, these people are from Markovia, but that doesn't mean that the entire country believes in what they believe in. They're just probably regular people trying to live their lives like anyone else. So basically trying to give another perspective to it. Then there's a whole Anissa situation, because Anissa's going out there as Blackbird, and Jeff, and it's interesting because Jeff kind of sees it as, her almost showboating, because it's like, yeah, you're out here as, Blackbird. It's like, because that stuff he was doing, because I forgot, like, he wasn't really aware of her kind of doing the whole Blackbird thing. I mean, I get it. Once again, it's the whole thing of like, she's trying not to be Thunder, because if she's doing stuff as Blackbird, it keeps her under, like, keeps her lower profile to a certain extent. It makes it seem like it's someone else. If she's running around in Thunder, Odell's going to know it's her. So that's the whole situation, obviously. But for Jeff, he sees it as like, yeah, you're trying to do good and stuff. I get that. But for him, it's like, it almost feels like you're showboating. Your thing has always been saving people just wasn't enough for you. You kind of have to show off, which we've seen instances of that in the past. And it's hard to say whether or not this is 100% that. I don't know. It doesn't seem like she's showing off, but I can see why he would kind of jump to that conclusion. And she even says it herself. It's like, my dad, no matter, he loves me. He would never do, like, he is very protective, and he will never kind of see me as a grown up. And I think, and that's something even Jeff was like, oh, she's growing up, and she's walking around like she's a grown up. But, in his mind, that's always going to be, her, Anissa and Jennifer will always be his little girls. So in his mind, it's like, he's not really ready to see them like that, because, I guess because even Jeff himself was like, when I was in this whole superhero game, I was, so young and naive. And so I think he attributes a lot of stuff that mistakes when he was a beginner and all this. And that's stuff that came up in, seasons 1 and 2 about that whole aspect of like, he doesn't want Anissa to, repeat his mistakes in that same regard, So. And obviously, I was wondering about this too, because Anissa came out in her Blackbird outfit. I was like, whoa, what? Oh, so Grace knows about this? Oh, she knows about that. She knows about Thunder. And for her and obviously Jeff kind of snapping, being like, you telling her you're putting your family in danger, because, there's a point you can kind of see where it's, which he was totally speaking out of pocket when he said it, was the whole thing of like, you can't be like, oh, like the fact of the matter is you shouldn't have told Grace, because what are you going to do? What happens when you end up kicking her out your bed? Essentially, because she's never been consistently in a relationship. It's been a while. It's just been from one person to another. Like, even with everything with Grace, like there was some space in between. So it's like you kind of haven't been in the most long-term relationship. So it's kind of like, how can you divulge these secrets that can affect your family's future? You should be looking after them first, rather, so... And obviously he sees Grace activate her powers and she shifts. And I guess that's like psychological damage from everything that she's been through. I guess that's what she looked like maybe when she was younger. And so, when she gets super stressed out or worried, she kind of like psychologically and subconsciously she'll revert back to like her kid form, I think, or at least her teenage form. I think that's what that, represents. And, you have Anissa telling her, like, I know all there is to know about you. I know everything you've been through. I even know your real name because, Gamby had looked into her but she was like, the fact is, it doesn't matter what form you take. Granted, I prefer this form because you look amazing. But at the same time, it's like who you are. You are Grace, and that's the person I love. I know this is a complicated thing. This is a lot for everyone to handle. But she's like, old man, leopard, if you is the way you are, it's like, it's a party. So it's like, no, I'm in this. I'm here to be with you. I know it's a complicated thing, but I'm still going to be here, So, so I thought that was kind of neat. To see kind of that relationship kind of push forward. And like I said, I was also surprised because I was like wondering last episode, I was like, so Grace is saying all this and showing you herself like face to face what she's capable of doing on the fly. But it's like, I was like, are you not going to tell her about you as Blackbird of Thunder? But it's like, no, off screen she did that. So I was like, okay, so there's that type of situation. Obviously, I said, Jeff is back at school and obviously seeing the effects of the occupation and stuff and like that. And I mean, it's not just that, but also like even on the streets of just like how like almost just kind of rampant things are. People kind of, attacking ASA checkpoints and being taken down. It's like people being arrested like that. Like, at least there was some order. Like, no matter how complicated things were before, there was almost some order. It just seems so... It is, essentially turning into a police state type of situation. So it's just kind of like people just kind of being taken down like that and just arrested. It's just like everyone's got their own reasons. Like it's a very complicated situation. And Jeff not only comes back to find out like, oh, he doesn't have the same teaching job anymore. He's been shifted. Well, he's supposed to be like a guidance counselor now. And I guess it's because basically the ASA wants to maneuver him in a position where he's more likely able to have the freedom and obviously work less and also get paid more, apparently, which the principal dude wasn't too happy about that. He was like, I don't know what your whole deal is with the ASA that they've set you up with like such a cushy gig, but it's supposed to give him a little leeway so when they need to call upon him to do some stuff, he can do it, or whatever the case may be. He even confronts Odell about everything because it's like, at the very least, okay, you want to keep your troops in Freeland, sure, but kind of pull back with everything that's going on here at the school. Like, let the school, because, and he even brought it up, it's like he had a problem with them putting in metal detectors last season, and it's now, it's like you almost kind of wish you could go back to those days, considering everything, like literal troops are walking around the school with guns in hand. And so, almost like this, this oppressive, presence always there looming, just waiting kind of for something to go wrong, which is like, it's a give and take because it's like they're there for people's protection, but at the same time, there's so many people in the ASA that kind of flex their authority. It seems like they're there to they almost borderline do more harm than good, because all you do is create a situation where a lot of people, it's not like you're here with a helping hand. It's kind of like people step on a line, you smack them down type of thing. I mean, even the teacher, because like one of the students got pulled out of class, and what ends up happening is the principal's like, no, stop. ASA doesn't really take any questions. They just hit him with the bottom of the gun and just like, holy crap, like don't you think that's a little extreme? But that's the thing of like, we're not here to explain ourselves. We have the authority to do whatever we want to. So it's almost like a bully situation of like, these are people who are seriously power tripping of like, I got my orders, I'm going to do whatever it takes. Like, not even kind of nuancing the situation, So it's hard to say whether it's just them 100% blindly following orders, or is it just, that's just who they are, regardless of blindly following orders, like I said, or are they just straight up power tripping? So, complicated nature to this whole situation. There's a part of me that was wondering if the new student, what's his name again? Is it Brandon? I keep thinking in my head it is, but it's probably not. But him, I kind of get the inkling like he might be a metahuman. There's something special about him in the sense of like they're like, oh, you need to get in line so they can check and see if you're a meta or whatever and stuff like that. And he's like, no, I've already got that. I'm like, either your family's rich and powerful and you're able to kind of skirt around those lines, but then there's something that recently just popped in my head. It's like, you don't think he's related to Odell, do you? In the sense that like that's like Odell's like son or grandson or some shit like that. You don't think that's because it seems almost like he walks around like because he has such so, but then again he's so, I don't know, because I felt it doesn't mean, because I was wondering, I'm about to say, if he was related to Odell, him being so against everything going to occupation and stuff like that, you think he'd be more for it, but just like Jennifer and Anissa don't agree with their parents, it's the same thing. You don't have to float with what your parents believe in. You can have your own beliefs. So I don't know, or at the very least, whoever his family is well off, not unless he's pretending to be well off. But part of me wonders, because it was like, oh, there's some hints of like some meta activity at the school. So it's either him or the girl that Jennifer was him and Jennifer were, smoking in the bathroom. Like, not unless it was her. I don't know. That's where my mindset is. I'm curious. Like I said, that whole situation does bring up a very interesting, like I said, debate about, whether the occupation really is all that good. It's like, because we know, as the audience know, that the ASA skews a lot of stuff to make it like to try and justify their actions, which is like a lot of their, in some, in Jennifer's mind, like I said, she thought like, oh, like, whatever they have to do to keep us safe, and like how they handle things, and because this is just the way things have been while Jeff was away, it just seems like she's almost desensitized to it to a certain extent. But I think also more so she's desensitized because she believes like, oh, they have the best intentions. But it's like, that's also another thing. You wouldn't be so buddy-buddy with Odell if you knew what he had done to your boyfriend, what he had done to Khalil, like turning him into this mindless killing machine, this soldier, Like, if you found that out, you definitely wouldn't be all for everything that the ASA does, because that's something super shady that he's done behind your back. Even lying saying it was, so Markovian is like, no, he sent Khalil to kill his own mom. So it's like, once that information drops, I think that's going to shift a lot of stuff in Jennifer's eyes about this whole situation. I didn't talk about it, but it's like that Gamby thing is kind of tripping me out. Like, that guy was sitting there like, oh, like beside Jeff and everything, Jeff's getting to watch. I'm like, why are you? I was like, all right, Gamby in that damn cloaking stuff. It's like that's going to mess with my head, because I keep constantly forgetting about that. So I'm like, who the hell is this random dude that, oh, right, Gamby in disguise. And then he brought up something I completely forgot about. I was like, right, I can't be out here because people think I'm dead. I'm like, right. I literally forgot about that storyline. I was like, right, you never did find out who was trying to kill you. I was like, right. Which, I don't know if that's necessarily going to be a big part this season. They might trail it a little bit like more, but maybe it'll become a bigger thing later on, because the fact that they threw it in just as a little like one-liner makes you think like that means it might pay off a little bit this season, whether it's just kind of trailing on a little bit at a time, or whether it just full-blown comes out of like, oh, who's after him and for what reasons. I'm assuming this has to deal with his past, which that's another line too, because he was talking about the fact is that Jeff and Lynn aren't on the same page. It's kind of a hard thing, and Jeff's kind of like, is that why things didn't work out between you and X? The job got in the way? And he's like, it's the past. It's best to kind of not to, turn those pages. So I'm like, that seems like that might be something that kind of pops up. To be fair, we know Gamby did a lot of stuff, with the ESA back in the day. So I'm sure there's a lot he has to kind of make up for. That's why he kind of looked after Jeff and everything. That's why he tried to work with Jeff's dad to kind of expose everything that was going on with the vaccine and everything, because he saw, the evil that was kind of, coming from the work that he was doing and stuff like that, so, but I'm sure it's that thing of like, there's a lot of stuff that you've done that like, haunts you and is going to follow you. So I think that's what that storyline potentially is going to be about. We'll see ultimately how things end up playing out on that front. I just thought that was just kind of interesting, and like I said, referencing his ex-wife and everything, which obviously the parallels are there is to make, to Jeff and Lynn, which Lynn is obviously pushing herself. I think Lynn's desperation to save people, because for her it's like, because she feels like she's let so many people down. Like obviously the metas in the tubes, like so many of them ended up dying because that was Dr. Jace's manipulation to like kill half of them and to make sure that the other half, so I think her desperate need to make sure that I think it's also from a scientist's perspective, but also a doctor perspective of kind of like save as many people as possible. She's so driven by that and consumed by it, but it seems like that consumption and is not just her own, because it seems like she starts taking green light, and she tries to like take out the more addictive aspects of it to make it so it's like, her brain starts functioning more and more, so she can come up with a vaccine and stuff like that and push herself, and she's not sleeping on top of that. And at one point she's kind of getting dizzy and delirious, so it's like, is it just purely not sleeping? Is the green light actually keeping her up? And it just seemed like she was a little addicted to it. But now we find out why. Once again, just showing you who Odell is. It's like, man, it's just kind of like you just love being a scummy bad guy. Because it turns out they were throwing in subliminal messaging to kind of make her think, take green light, make her think it was her idea. Like subtly putting stuff around. They sprayed her glass, I guess, with maybe essence of green light. So it's like when she tasted it, it's like, And so like that taste in her mouth from like when she was drinking the wine, but they had sprayed it on her glass. So that combined with, the subliminal messages of take green light kind of set it in her mind like, oh yeah, this is totally my idea. So they incepted her mind to do that. And now it seems like she's addicted to it, because this way, I guess this is their own way of kind of getting her under control, basically getting her on their side, because it's like, like she'll be more, well, for one, they'll get more out of her, less resistance, and I guess getting her hooked on it, basically kind of get her to be like, I need more. She doesn't realize how deep she's falling into becoming an addict to this whole situation. So, I mean, I guess there's some silver lining to it, because she did save a lot of metahumans from this virus that's spreading. But then there's the whole situation of the green light cases, as well as the vaccine cases of their powers and their bodies kind of breaking down, like Miriam's situation. So that turns into a whole conversation of like, she's pushing herself overtime just to do that. And it's like, why would it, like, that's what I'm trying to understand, why Odell is pushing her like that, because once again, like, because of what went down with Khalil and the chip, I would have assumed that was a lane that, like, that's the lane they were going to go down, but maybe they need to kind of break her down a little bit more with this green light, then chip her to kind of get her more susceptible, maybe. I don't know. It just seems, why would you do that to your best asset? But I guess it's just, did make her desperately need you, so that, it causes more of a rift between her and her family, and she becomes more desperate for your help, and you can, push her to do what you need her to do, I don't know. That's kind of my mindset on it. We'll ultimately kind of have to wait and see where things go from there. I did also like the fact is that, Jeff ended up going to Anissa for help when it came to saving his student, because it's like, yeah, I know we don't agree on a lot of stuff, but the fact is, and he finds out like what it is that Nissa has been up to. It's like, oh yeah, like you've been basically making a, modern day underground railroad to get a lot of people out of Freeland. And it's like, I'm so proud of you. And I think for Anissa, because her and her dad kind of beef a lot, but I think hearing that kind of made her go, I'm sure that's all she ever wanted to hear, was like, no, you respect what I do. And the fact they realize what it is that I'm doing, like how hard I'm working to save people, because obviously this resistance group of sorts is using her as kind of a symbol, but it's like, don't use me to kind of represent you shooting up an ASA, checkpoint or whatever, it's like, we're doing good. You don't want to kind of basically tarnish that name. I don't want my name to be tarnished, to be this symbol of like, I'm willing to hurt people in that regard. It's like, no, I'm here to help people, so, but them breaking into the police station, and I love Henderson kind of giving everyone to like go ahead and be like, no, chill, sit back and relax, and basically Anissa went in there and kicked some ASA ass. Freed everyone, including people from the resistance who are willing to still fight, because it's like, yeah, they know our identity and we'd be probably better off leaving, but it's like, doesn't matter, because what it matters is helping as many people as possible. That kind of comes first. So that shows you everyone else's dedication to this cause as well. So there's that. Obviously, Odell's looking at, Jeff, and like, oh, the fact of the matter is, I know you were behind that whole situation. Oh, yeah, let's not BS it. We know. The tracker says you were here. We know what's up. The fact of the matter is, everyone gets one. This was your one, so I hope it was worth it. So that's going to be interesting to see how Jeff handles this going forward, because, like, any actions he takes, it has to be because Odell gives him the go-ahead. So it's like, I'm curious to see what ends up happening in that regard. I also thought it was kind of interesting, too, that Gamby's kind of like, yeah, this tech in this watch is actually super dope. It's actually so much better than anything I could have made. I mean, granted, if I had like $30 billion to spend on it, plus having like a lot of people working around the clock on it, like a bunch of other people. I mean, to be fair, when you actually think about it, Gamby did a lot on his own. That's pretty impressive with the resources he has. But it's just like, yeah, the ASA is literally a government-funded organization. It's literally part of the government, so they get like a shit ton of money. So they have the money and resources to do that. So I wonder, is anyone else going to get a new suit? I wonder, is Anissa going to get one? I mean, technically, Jennifer got one, but it was like more so just a copy of her suit. But I'm wondering, is there a little bit more to that? Because it turns out Odell sends her up into like the atmosphere, and that was kind of a pretty dope moment. It almost kind of like, that was like some cosmic level shit that was happening, where it's like she was soaking up, I guess, was that like radiation? I don't know what that's just from the atmosphere. Was that supposed to be from the sun or space or whatever? I haven't seen it, but it just kind of reminds me of like some Dark Phoenix stuff. I don't know. I mean, it looked reminiscent of that, like the energy she was drawing in. I'm like, so what does that mean? Like, I kind of chalked that up to almost like Odell's going to use her as a giant battery. And that's kind of my mindset on it, but I don't know. It seemed like she was gathering a shit ton of energy, so like, what, I guess that he's going to use, I mean, to be fair, it's not just a battery. Like, she's a very powerful bomb, essentially. We kind of already know that, so he's already had her attack like that data farm like last episode, so I'm sure it's going to be a thing of using her again without her family knowing. So, like I said, the Pierce family is kind of falling apart to a certain degree, and like the ASA is literally in the middle of kind of pushing them apart to a certain extent in different avenues. So that's kind of an interesting situation. Then there's also Khalil handling the Sinzel situation of killing him. It is kind of interesting to see what he is capable of doing. Like, just like he can control the volumes in which like the venom kind of goes through you. Like, he can do it enough to kind of like make it so you can't talk for a little while, or straight up kill you by like pointing it to dude's head and kind of almost like he's pulling a trigger. I guess it was kind of like sending the poison throughout his head immediately, just instantly killing him. I was like, that was gnarly. Because it's like, oh, I'm not here to arrest you. Like, the fact is, when they send me in, it means they are sending me in to make someone go away. So, but nevertheless, that's, like I said, a lot of interesting things. I'm curious to ultimately see where things kind of end up taking us going forward. Obviously, Jeff in his new position. Obviously, like this new budding working relationship between Jennifer and Odell. Everything they're pushing Lynn into doing, and Anissa with this whole Blackbird thing. What that means, obviously, for Jeff, it's like the whole Black Lightning thing. Like, because the whole point is to keep it low key, so no one's going to know that Black Lightning was back. Like, because to anyone else's mind, it's like it was just Blackbird that broke in, so no one knows that Black Lightning is back, because this new resistance group kind of represents, Blackbird and the resistance group represents hope. Now that Black Lightning's not around, and neither is Thunder, so that's a whole complicated situation, and I'm curious to see where they end up taking that going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Until next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.